SD as as a STEM specialist. And Andrea, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, and I'm Andrea Leach. I am the high school science TOSA for Portland Public Schools. And yeah, so we've both been interested in this for quite some time, and we're excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah. I was my main part of my career was 20 years in the middle school as a math and science teacher. And I definitely was, Bernard, I see you clapping there. Are you a middle school teacher too? Oh no, you just honored the middle schoolers. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's an interesting game. You got to be a little crazy to do middle school. But I was always very frustrated with my grading, always extremely frustrated with my grading, and didn't know really what to do until I got this job at the ESD, when I actually had the time to dig in and do some research. And then I learned a lot, and it's like, oh, now I know what I can do. So I'm excited to share with you here. We have asked that people will rename themselves. So if you could put your location after your name, that would be great. If you don't know how to do that, find your picture, find the 3 little dots, click on that, and there should be a rename button down in that.
And I've been sort of involved and interested. So I've been teaching high school chemistry and AP chemistry for multiple years. And in that course of that progress, I was teaching at Benson, which is a voice school that is a very diverse population. So I was really interested in assessment and assessment practices, and have gone to multiple assessment conferences and talked with the Beaverton group about how they've been going about making changes to equitable grading. I've done some presentations to the Portland Metro STEM Partnership, and there's another sort of 3-hour-long webinar through them that we'll have a sign up for at the end if you're interested in learning more. At the very end of this presentation, there's a list of additional resources you can look up as well.
Perfect. And I realize that the type is very small in here, but I do want to call out this quote from Susan Brookhart. Susan Brookhart's done a lot of stuff around equitable grading. And one of the things that she says that I didn't believe when I first started doing this reading, because I picked up Joe Feldman's book and started reading, and I skipped the whole introductory chapter and just went straight into the strategies and just skipped all that stuff. But the more I work with people, the more I realize that you really do need to focus on the philosophy and what a grade even means to you to start with before you really dig into the strategies, ideally, because otherwise you might implement those strategies in ways that are not as equitable as they could be. And so I'm actually going to start with a little story. And Andrew, go ahead and go forward.
Trying to get the computer to do that.
I was actually this Saturday morning, I woke up and at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had this little like, oh wait, this is how I want to frame this work that I am doing. And so what I kind of, oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll start with the agenda. Sure. We can do that. Yeah. So we'll do, why are we here? Why do we grade? What's the purpose of it? That's kind of this framing piece of it. We'll talk about a few grading ideas. We'll really dig in on 2 strategies in particular, and then we'll ask you, because there's already a lot of wisdom in this room, and we totally get that. Andrea and I are not experts by any means. We are just teachers who really feel passionate about this. So we want to hear your voice as well and try to get some of that knowledge in here. Awesome. All right. So let's start with, what do grades tell us about students in our class? And typically, this is a very stereotypical evaluation, right? But if you look at your grade book and you see a bunch of A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's, when you think about your students, an A student is like one of your excellent students, right? Way oversimplified, I totally get it, just stay with me on it. So an excellent student are our A students, okay? And then our B student is a above average student, and the C student is an average student, D below average, and F is unsatisfactory, shall we say. We might have other names, but unsatisfactory, we'll use that one for now. Now, if you're doing proficiency kind of grading, then you might use other language like exceeds, meets, approaching, developing, does not meet. But it's been my experience when I talk to students who are consistently A students or B students or C students, that they use a different set of words to describe what they feel about themselves. Like they feel like their teachers are saying they are a great or good student, or that they are a failure, or they are bad. And that is often this case. And I think I know that was true for me in some respects, and I know it's definitely been told to me by many students over the years, and that is really troubling to me. And it points to the fact that the letters don't tell us as much as we wish they would. It's a little too oversimplified. So let's go to let's dig in a little bit more with this example. So science teacher, let's take that. Let's say that an A student in my class does all their work, does really well on assessments. They demonstrate safe practices during labs, and they can independently design an investigation, right? That's my A student. A C student, well, they kind of do most of the work and they do okay on assessments and safe, but not always awesome, and can design an investigation with some support. And then of course an F is a student who does little or no and does poorly on assessments, on safe during labs, that kind of stuff. But if I were to really go into my gradebook and let's just take the C's, and I took out all my C students and I looked at them, which even that language right there is problematic, right? My C students, not good. So students that currently have a C in my class, that description there will probably not match any one of those C students, right? They will either do a lot of their work but not do as well on assessments, or vice versa, or some combination of this, but that letter C doesn't tell us very much. It really
and even more problematic is, without looking in depthly and taking a lot of time looking at their assignments, I have no idea how to get that C student to a B student or an A student, because
Yes.
which one of these things do they need to work on? Without looking back at their work again, I don't know.
Yeah, so let's look at a particular student. Me, 8th grade me. I skipped 8th grade math because I was getting really bored in 7th grade. And so I went to Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and I failed every single chapter test there was, every single one. I did, however, come in during lunch and I got help from the teacher, and I learned about the content from the previous chapter, and I got better at it because I actually just really enjoyed math. I thought it was fun. I liked the puzzle aspect of it. I wanted the challenge. So I went for it. And then at the end, like I was kind of learning the content, but always a week or always a chapter behind. So I would know chapter 6, but getting tested on chapter 7. So I kept failing those tests, got a C on the final. So my final grade was a D. This is Miss Chernin. Miss Chernin was awesome, by the way. I love Miss Chernin. She's the reason I became a teacher, I think. So I love her. She gave me a D, and she actually pulled me in and said, hey, I'm going to give you a D. The grade book says F, because you failed every chapter test. There was 7 of them. You failed all of them. You got a C on the final. So I know you basically know the concepts pretty well. But even though the grade book says F, I'm going to sprinkle a little fairy dust on there, a little grade fairy dust, and I'm going to give you a D as a compilation prize. I was like, great, awesome. That's good with me. Fine. Retake it in high school. No problem. Now, is that grade an accurate reflection of my knowledge, my understanding, my value as a student? Probably not, right? Probably not. All right, so now let's fast forward 20 years, a little time warp here. And now I, as an 8th grader, go into my 8th grade math class, right? This is a little bit of a mind warp here. As a teacher, I valued effort, especially my first few years of teaching. I really thought that effort was the most important thing. Why? Because that's what got me through school, right? It was my hard work that made me successful in life, not my ability to take a test or any of that kind of stuff. So as a teacher, I said, homework assignments, class assignments, participation, all that stuff, it's 80% of your grade, because I want to motivate you to do that stuff. And then assessments, just a little 20%. So if I gave myself a grade, remember, I failed every test, but I did all the work and I worked really hard, well, I probably would have gotten a B in my own class. Now, is that accurate? Honestly, I don't even know. I mean, what is a B really? I mean, it says a good student, right? We talked about being a good student or meeting expectations. I don't know, 70% of the concepts, is that meeting expectations? Is it a good student? I honestly, that letter B does not define who I am, but sometimes we allow it to. Okay, now for fun, let's go through some sort of alternate dimension here. And now Chernin is teaching next door to me, right? Same school next door. And we're both teaching 8th grade math, both teaching Algebra 1. But now my 8th grade self would have randomly been put into one of those two classes, right? This happens maybe not in smaller schools, but in larger schools, this happens all the time, multiple sections. And so I would have either gotten myself or her, and I would have gotten a D in one class and a B in the other class. Like, which one's more accurate? I don't know. I really don't know which grade is more accurate.
And to be honest, probably both of them are inaccurate, right? There's neither one of, they both look at different aspects of the grades. Let's think about what those grades wind up meaning in real life. So we think that we're giving a student a grade for how they're doing in our class, but in reality, grades get used for all these crazy things that have nothing to do with our class. They get used to unlock doors like admissions to college. They get used to screen job candidates. I've been at jobs where they're like, oh, on this resume, they had a GPA of blah, blah, blah. So we are going to interview them or we're not going to interview them, as though that really represents how good of a job, how good they're going to be at that job.
And Google did do that for a long time. That was a common practice at Google. And they stopped doing that because they did an internal study and found that there is zero correlation between GPA and success in their organization. So they stopped using it.
Especially when you consider, you know, some people think that GPA is about effort and some people think that GPA is about, did you memorize things at the right time?
Right, right.
So grades are used also to classify people. You get like insurance discounts, you get rates on your house based on statistics related to grades. And, you know, whether you're a good or bad student, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a good or bad driver. However, if you're a compliant student, it might mean you're a good driver, and that's where that comes from. And very little of this is related to the reason why we give grades. So what are the purpose of grades? So if we look and we interview a bunch of people, we come up with these main reasons for why people give grades. They're supposed to communicate achievement or learning, to help students see where they are, self-assess, to help students determine their career path. Some people feel like, you know, if I got an A in this, then maybe I should be an engineer or maybe I should be an artist, right? Provide incentives to learn, promote instructional decisions so that they can show students are ready for the next level of learning. That happens a lot in like AP, IB classes. If you got an A or a B in your science class or your math class, then you're ready for that next level. Provide evidence of effort or lack of responsibility. So go ahead and drop in the chat some of the numbers that relate to items that resonate with you for what the purpose of grades are. Or if you have another purpose that you can think of, you can write that in the chat. Okay, I see some self-assessment going on. Communicate achievement, self-assessment, promote instructional decisions. Almost all of them, yeah. So I'm seeing a lot across the board there.
No, I personally was a firm believer in 4 as a teacher. I thought it did motivate.
Yeah, I thought it motivated students to learn until I had students come into my class and tell me, hey, I failed science last year, so I'm going to fail your class as well. Just like they walked in, I'm failing your class. And I was like, whoa, giving them an F is not going to give them an incentive to learn because that's just what they're expecting to get. All right, let's see if I can get back to my slide deck here. All right, so in the Jamboard, and we should probably drop that link in the chat. Justin, can you drop the link in the chat for the Jamboard? Let's add your activities that you do in your classroom under the appropriate category. And we're going to put you in a breakout room for a minute, unless well, we've only got like, do we have enough people to put it in maybe 2 breakout rooms? So that you can just introduce yourself and have a chat about where you teach and put some classroom activities where they fit under those purposes of grading and all. See if I can open that Jamboard up.
Yeah, I just realized my link says viewer. I want to make sure people can actually edit in there.
All right.
Let's see. Somebody try throwing a Post-it note in there just to make sure it works.
I'll put my chat on there. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second while I verify that I can.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi back to you. Appreciate that.
All right. And I'll just drop that in the chat one more time while I'm here. And go back to sharing my screen. So there's 3 items here, and there's also the other 3 items are here.
Yeah, so just drop in the Jamboard anything that you do to any specific instructions or strategies you use to motivate students, to inform decisions, all those kinds of things, throw those in there. But also feel free to throw things in there if you have a question or just a comment to make. You can do that under a category if you'd like to. Right. So we're going to send you out to some breakout rooms just so you can have some discussions and just talk about it a little bit, and not feel like you have to open up to the whole group here, but feel free to keep adding things to the Jamboard. If you have any questions, feel free to stay behind and we'll help answer those questions. And we're going to go for
about 7 minutes since there's
7 minutes. Okay, perfect. So about 4:55. All right, we'll see you on the other side. Oh, there we go. I can do it for 7 there.
Can you do breakout rooms, Dustin?
Yeah, just did. Oops, I realized I just sent Susan Upton. Oops. Oh, wow.
It's okay. It'll all work out in the end.
Did it too fast.
That's okay.
People can come back, I guess, too.
Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, I love doing these kinds of events, but yeah, just this is part of why it's busy, which is great. And like, I don't have any concern with it.
Hey, cool.
Don't want to be bored, who would want that?
Exactly. So, all right, cool. I'm gonna mute myself and I'm working on some other things for OSTA. So be back.
All right.